What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and this one I want to break down what's going on with the overall market and why I'm leaning a little bit more bullish for the market as time goes on. I want to talk about why that is for Tesla, SPY, Apple, and many other tickers. I'm going to break down how the technicals are looking and some other important things to remember. But before I do anything like this, before I talk about the potential bounce that is coming in my opinion, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, in just about 7 days, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the market and some very, very important news. So when it comes to the market, guys, I just want to remind everyone that we had two bad pieces of news that came out. But I did warn you guys that there's a possibility of the market gapping down and getting a pop. I said that yesterday. If you look at SPY, the prediction was SPY would either bounce off 444 and start pushing, or we could see it come down to 442.5 around there and then get the bounce. That was my prediction from yesterday, and that's pretty close to what happened for today, believe it or not. And if you don't believe me, you can watch my previous video. On top of that, I just want to mention that the reason why the market ended up kind of like gapping down even harder, even for Apple, the reason why Apple dropped even harder than expected is because we had a big piece of news, and I couldn't have foreseen that. Sometimes pieces of news come out that you can't expect. And that's what happened to Apple. So the news came out that in China, the government has banned their officials, their governmental officials, from owning iPhones. And that's some big news because it's going to affect Apple and the relationship between the companies and the countries and many other things out there between the two countries. That's very, very important. But despite that news, do not forget that Apple has an event for September 12th, right? And that's going to be in just a couple of trading days. So I believe Apple may start approaching this event. And then after the event, we tend to see Apple kind of like sell off. But I am thinking that there's going to be a bounce coming very soon. Part of why I am saying that is because Apple has this very, very nice bullish divergence that has developed. It is continuing to, try to hold. It was very, very oversold on the smaller time frames. And despite how it was dropping, it is due for a bounce, in my opinion. We have a potential inverse head and shoulders structure that is developing right here. And I just want to mention that, with the news, that's an external factor that could, cause something else, which I can't always predict. But based off technicals, I am predicting the market's going to see some upside either for tomorrow or by Monday. I'm leaning more towards like tomorrow, the market trying to get a recovery and starting to push up a little bit. All right. And part of why I say that is because on Apple, we have this inverse head and shoulders. We're trying to push up. We're showing some life. We have this big gap that's unfilled that developed during the pre-market. And I think that Apple's going to make its way up to try to fill this gap and get back into the 180s very soon. Now, does it have to be a crazy run, like a 5% run for 2 days? Not necessarily, but I do believe it's due for a bounce and it's quite oversold. And with this bullish divergence that is developed on the MACD and the RSI, it is going to start pushing even higher and help the market pump. For Tesla, if you look at Tesla, it's trying to test its 200 EMA, and you can see right here, it rejected off of it just a little bit. It's very close to 250. It is making an attempt to get above it, though, which is completely normal, completely fine. On the 30 minutes time frame, you can see it's very close to where we are right here. Tesla's testing 250, and I think that with this nice bullish divergence on the MACD, we technically have it on the RSI as well on the 30 minutes time frame. Tesla's going to try to push up towards this imbalance. I think 255 is on the table for the next couple of days. I still think Tesla could try pushing even higher. If you look at Tesla, what did Tesla do? It gapped down, right? We were talking about this as a possibility, but what happened since then? It was a little sideways for the first couple of hours. Then it started pushing. It's pushing up and it's been pumping for most of the day. All right, so this is what we were talking about yesterday, some pump to the upside. We ended up gapping down because of the bad news associated with Apple and other factors. But for now, Tesla's showing some life, and I think there's a good chance of a bounce going into tomorrow. Now, on top of this, if you look at SPY, and let me just mention a couple of levels for Tesla before I go to SPY. You're going to be watching 250 as resistance, 252.5, then 255 as resistance on Tesla. For support, you're going to be watching critical support at 248, 247.5, and then 245 below that. I think it's just going to range trade a little bit at these higher levels and eventually try to continue pushing by tomorrow. For SPY, you're going to be watching 445 as resistance. If that breaks, 445.8 is going to be the next level, which happens to be where this gap is. We're just under 446. Then we have this imbalance all the way up here around this 447 zone, which could be coming next. We have a bullish divergence on SPY. It looks like it's going to try pushing higher, but for support, don't forget to watch 444 and then 443.5 below that, and then 442.5. I think this thing is going to just uptrend. Could come down just a little bit, completely normal. But by tomorrow specifically, we could see this thing try to get back up above 445.8 and start pushing even higher. I think Aapl has the inverse head and shoulders we were talking about. Bullish divergence on Aapl should bounce from a technical standpoint. As long as there's no bad news, no major bad news, it should try to bounce. On the QQQ, right, we have a potential inverse head and shoulders like structure as well, this accumulation phase that develops. I'm not seeing any like bullish divergence on it, but the MACD on the 30 minutes time frame is crossed, and this thing is going to try to break above the 20 EMA. So it's going to be testing this resistance at 372. If that breaks, 373.5 is on the table, and then 375 above that. I think it's going to eventually break over the next few days, if not as soon as later on by tomorrow. It should try to break out, and I think it's very, very oversold. It's still waiting for that break. For Nvda, remember the level I was talking about, 448 to 450 is where we have critical support on Nvda. Okay, where did this thing bounce off of? 451, so super, super close to that 450 area we were talking about. Now, Nvda, when you zoom out, could have a slanted inverse head and shoulders. It's not extremely strong just yet. Could this thing drop a little bit then bounce, or could it bounce from here? I believe the answer is yes. We have this unfilled gap around this just under 470. We also have this bullish divergence developing on it, so it is possible for it to drop a little bit more before it gets a bounce, or it could just try to bounce from here. One of those two will likely be the case, so watch for a bounce very, very soon as long as this bullish divergence remains. And I think there's a good chance of that potentially happening. On the 4-hour time frame, it's not really getting that bounce we want just yet, but it is trying to hold this 200 EMA. So there's a chance that Nvidia is going to try to bounce tomorrow. But just to be safe, we need to be open-minded. We just want to watch it to see if it could hold above and break above 460 first. Because if it manages to do so, I would not rule out the possibility of it pushing up to like 465 plus. Anyways, guys, the VIX was pushing upwards, but you could see it's starting to reject a little bit. And also on the 30 minutes time frame, we had this bearish divergence that developed after getting this nice pop. It's starting to drop, and we have this gap that's way down here. If the VIX comes down to fill this gap, or if it starts dropping even lower to fill the second gap, right? The VIX dropping could be because of the market pushing even higher. The dollar is now below 105. It got rejected off 105. It got a bearish cross in the 30 minutes time frame, and on the 4-hour time frame, it is starting to curl a little bit, losing some momentum. If the dollar gets this big rejection, starts cooling off a bit, this could pump the markets a little bit more. So there's a good chance the market's going to try to bounce a little bit. It may trade sideways here and kind of a range trade a bit, just like what I just said about Tesla, just for a bit before we get some pushing to the upside for, I would say, by tomorrow, if not by Monday, we should see some upside. That's what I'm leaning towards. All right, so hopefully this video was helpful. But don't forget that as we approach Apple's event, we tend to see Apple pump approaching the event. Then after the event, we tend to see Apple sell off, but we're not going to worry about the sell off just yet. For now, there's a good chance the market's going to try to bounce, and I'm really hoping for that. All right, so that's what technicals are suggesting. Please do very, very well and do what you have to do, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.